Good morning. Today I'm talking with Kristen McNeely. Kristen is a woman that I have known and worked with for many, many years. She is somebody that no matter what side of the table we're on, the same, opposite, I can always trust we're working together for the good of the kids, the good of the family. I trust her. I respect her knowledge, her professionalism, and her compassion. So, Kristen, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I am a licensed MFT and a board certified behavior analyst. And I started my career working for a non-public agency, working in homes with children on the autism spectrum. I also was able to participate in school consultation. And I think that's where we crossed paths initially. Um, and I was able to form relationships with, district personnel. I really enjoyed my time in the schools and was kind of ready to make that shift when one of the local school districts opened up a behavior specialist position. And so I jumped on that opportunity and I've been there ever since. And our paths have crossed back a couple of times. And so it's always great to work with you, Kathy. I feel mutual respect for you very much so.
Thank you. I do the same, Kristen. You know that we have been through some very tough situations together.
Yes.
And I have always appreciated your candidness and your honesty, even in tough conversations. So now I understand you're morphing your career to add another branch. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, social media is a really amazing, free, oftentimes resource for parents. Social media was kind of getting big actually at the start of my career. And it was really just more of like a social platform. But as it's evolved, it's become really, I think, a resource for parents and people in general on really any topic you can imagine, from lifestyle to parenting to how to buy a car. And as I've been on different platforms and seeing the kind of evolution of different parenting people kind of take over. Sorry about that dinging. I have just been struck by how much misinformation is out there, and how, really the people that I support are some of our most vulnerable population in terms of needing the most support, and they're the most deserving of the best support. And so I just started wanting to kind of be part of that and wanted to be able to provide people with good information, information that's evidence-based and supported by research, but also that takes into account the nuance of their family situation. Just because a strategy is evidence-based doesn't mean it's going to work in the same way for every child. And so I wanted to kind of get in on that and be able to provide some of that good support. And so I started an Instagram account, and then recently I just launched a private consultation practice.
And what is the name of your consultation practice, and who are you consulting to, and what are the perimeters?
Yeah, so my consultation practice is Kristen McNeely Consulting. My website is kristenmcneely.com. And really it's geared towards—
Hold on, do you mind spelling your name out for anybody
not
who
at
might
all.
be looking for you?
Sure. So it's Kristen McNeely, KristenMcneely.com.
Great. Thank you.
And parents are really the target audience. The nice thing I think about consultation is that some parents might need really brief support, right? They might just need, an hour or two of kind of figuring out a specific situation. Other parents might need more ongoing support. And so we can work with that as well. So it's very open-ended, but really parents who are struggling with their children's behaviors, as well as childhood anxiety, inattention, things like that.
So is it sort of like a coaching situation when you say consulting? A parent might be experiencing these things in the home and come to you and say, this is what we're seeing, this is what we've been doing. And, you know, what does that mean? And how do we get to where we want to go, kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. So they would give me their scenario. I would learn a little bit about their family dynamics because I really do believe that that's important. We would talk a little bit about, why the behavior might be happening. It's always important to look at that function piece. What is the purpose of the behavior? And then also the other contributing factors. The why of behavior is not just function. There's a variety of variables. So talking about all of those things, and then helping them to develop, replacement behaviors for their child, helping them to develop better reactive strategies. So when the behavior happens, what would be a better response to it? And then really the most important thing is, what are some things that we can do to prevent this behavior from happening in the first place? And then, coaching them through how to implement all of those things.
And I would imagine, although I know your business is sort of new, so, you're just launching, but I will tell you from my own experience, you will end up being a therapist to the parent.
Yes.
Because parents in that situation, as you know, it's a very emotional time for them.
Yes.
And often parents don't know if and or how to discipline a child who's having behaviors, right? Because the normal parenting style would be discipline a behavior out of a child. And the population that often we're working with, that is not the go-to, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to generally discipline behavior that's based on something more than a desire not to follow through, right? Because that's what's going on.
Absolutely. I think for a lot of, or I would say the vast majority of the children that we support, I think that problem behavior often comes out of a skill deficit. Or, there's some other contributing factor like mental health. A lot of kids with anxiety present with problem behavior. And so
ADHD, when they have impulse control or lack of impulse control.
Exactly.
Sometimes a combination, right?
Yep, definitely.
And
definitely.
Parents first, like it's been my experience, they first go through like something it being their fault, or what didn't we do, or those kinds of things, right? And so they have to sort of come to terms with, you didn't do anything right or wrong. It doesn't have anything to do with that. And this is where we are right now. And yay, that we're building a team and looking forward to how do we rectify the situation? How do we grow it into what we want it to be?
Absolutely. There's so much shame in parenting these days, I think, because we have such easy access to many things online. But yes, I would say that is a go-to for sure, is feeling shame. And I think one of my goals is to either one, say, you haven't made a mistake, you're fine, like let's just make these tweaks, or yeah, maybe that wasn't the right way to handle it, but here's what we're going to do instead, and let's move forward. I don't think that in my opinion, it's good for children to see their parents make mistakes. I think that it helps them with any of their own perfectionistic tendencies to see that grownups make mistakes too. I'm a big believer in the repair process. And so acknowledging that a mistake was made and apologizing and making that right. And then we move forward. So really, I want to help parents get unstuck, because I think what happens is when they make those mistakes, they go into this shame cycle where they've made the mistake. Now they feel guilty about it and shameful, and then they feel more on edge. And so then another behavior happens and they make the same mistake again. And so I want to help them really get out of that cycle and move forward.
And as the parent is on edge, the child picks up
Absolutely
on that. And so you're like sort of self-perpetuating a cycle that nobody wants.
Yeah, exactly. And can be very difficult to get out of.
Right. And if there are other kids in the home, it is a family-wide situation,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I think that you're so smart, Kristen, in actually talking about the shame word, right? Because that's the word nobody ever wants to say, right?
Yeah.
And that's the dark, dirty secret. And we all have shame, right? We've all done things that we're not proud of. We've all made mistakes.
Yep.
And it's really not what you've done in the past, but what you're open to learning and doing differently in the future. And even in the future, you're going to make mistakes because that's part of the human condition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the things that I was seeing on social media was particularly how to respond to like tantrum behaviors or meltdowns from kids. And some of the feedback that I was seeing on how to respond to those was actually things that for a lot of kids is just going to feed that tantrum. And so I think
Like what
that
kinds of things were you seeing?
one of the big things that I see a lot of that is it's a big issue for me being an MFT, because I think it's a strategy that's really misused. But one thing that I see a lot of is talking about how when kids are upset, we need to validate their feelings. And being an MFT, feelings are very important to me. I'm a big believer in validating feelings. For me, it's the when. When do we do that? When we are taking away a toy from a child and they're getting upset and we say, oh, I see you're really mad about me taking away this toy. Guess what that's going to do? They're going to
Right.
yell louder. They're going to be even more upset. And so what I was seeing is a lot of parents, I'd read through comments on these posts and parents would say, gosh, I tried that and my kid yelled louder, or, then they started hitting me. And it was so frustrating to me to see these poor parents, taking this advice and it making things worse. And I think that contributes to shame even more is, well, now I'm doing what these experts are telling me to do, and it's making it worse. There must be something wrong with me. And again, it's just, it exacerbates this very vicious cycle. And so, yeah, part of my goal is to really just get out there with good information and try and get away from these blanket statements of this is how you do things, and talk instead about, well, here's a strategy. Let's talk about how we can adapt that for your child. I have 3 little ones of my own. 2 are old enough to have been subjected to behavior intervention. And they are very different personality wise, especially when they're upset. And so having to respond differently in my own family tells me that, kids from different families are going to need different responses as well. There's not just one, works for everyone kind of solution.
Yeah, one fix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, too bad, right? If there was
Yeah.
just one fix, right? Here you go, right? One size fits all.
Yep.
But being
Exactly.
able then to say to parents, this is how you do it, this is the strategy, we'll talk through it, let them try it. And if it's not successful a few times, then let's regroup. What
Exactly.
happened? What do we do from here? What's another way we could do it? Or how could we do that differently? Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's like a map, right? Like
Yeah, exactly. For example, my daughter is 5. She just turned 5, and she is what I would consider like highly sensitive. And one of the strategies that we're very familiar with as a behaviorist is choice making opportunities. It's in pretty much every behavior support plan I've ever written. We have choice making opportunities as a proactive strategy. And I don't think I've ever experienced a child despise choice-making strategies as much as my daughter. It causes her it causes an increase in anxiety. She will literally say to me, I don't know what to choose. And we can see that it's not something that is effective for her. And it's taking me time to adapt my language because I'm so used to giving choices as a proactive strategy. And so it's taking me a long time to really learn to kind of go the side door with her. So instead of being very direct, talking more generally like, oh, I see that there's a pink shirt in your closet and I see there's a purple one. And I wonder which one would be a good one for today, instead of, do you want the pink or the purple? And that's just kind of the nuance that I'm talking about is, yes, choice making is a great strategy. It's evidence-based, But to just make this blanket statement of we'll just provide them choices and it'll be fine is just not accurate. So that's really where I see my role in supporting parents, is kind of helping them identify those nuances and kind of shifting. So,
And that can be for kids, typical kids, kids with
yes.
needs, kids with
Yep.
disabilities, kids without disabilities.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. My daughter is typically developing. I worked with plenty of other students and children in the home settings where evidence-based strategies cause him anxiety. I have a student where timers cause him anxiety. Please don't put on the timer. Please don't put on the timer. So yes, kids with disabilities, kids who are typically developing, everybody.
Well, I think that, Kristen, your desire, your heart desire to help make families better, right? To build relationships
Yeah.
is a beautiful thing. And I too agree that it is a much needed service to our community, to the world, to parenting, because like you say, on social media, I mean, everyone's like a Google doctor, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. And
Exactly.
yeah, it's it's difficult. It's a difficult situation at
Yeah.
best. But
Yeah.
are there any things that you could say that might give a parent like give them thought process? Oh, maybe I could get some help. Are there things that happen, that might not be so extreme when your kids in the market having tantrums and at home having tantrums and throwing toys at their brother or sister, right? You kind of know, like, okay, time out, we need to do something. But there are things, nuances along the way that parents might keep their eye open for, that might trigger, oh, hey, at this stage, maybe I can learn a way so it doesn't get to a next stage.
Yeah. I think really paying attention to significant changes in behavior. So significant changes in sleep, changes in eating habits, changes in, how often they're playing with friends, maybe for early elementary age kids, if they start to lose interest in certain activities or want to play more by themselves, or, previously had been wanting to go on play dates and now they don't. Those would all be signs that I would want to check things out. I think also just if you're ever feeling lost, the beauty of consultation is that, like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be long term. I think it's perfectly reasonable for parents to have 1 or 2 sessions to check in with, myself or whomever they might choose, to talk about what the issue is and maybe adapt some new strategies. And hopefully that will fix things, especially like you're saying, Kathy, if they catch it early on. So.
Well, I really appreciate you having this conversation with me.
Yeah, I'm
And
happy to be here.
yeah, and I'm really, really proud of you. You have grown into a beautiful woman, Kristen. I
Oh,
have
thank
known you
you.
since you were a young adult.
Yes.
Yeah, long before marriage and
Yep.
kids and everything else. But I know from the families that I have been involved with that you have also been involved with as part of the team. My parents always really trust and respect you,
Yeah.
even if they don't like what's going on, even if they don't understand what's going on.
Yep.
You are always willing to have the conversation with them, the emotional
Yeah.
conversation, and talk through things. And sometimes that's all parents need, is a
It's so true.
sounding board of a professional, somebody who has seen lots of different things, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I don't have any kids. I've never been married, but a friend of mine pointed out to me last weekend, like, you've raised like 100 kids. And then I think back and I'm like, you're kind of right, I have.
It's true.
So I have experience, although I don't have kids, right?
Yeah.
And you have many, many, many experiences beyond your own family, because you've been involved in all of these situations for years upon years upon years. And I think that's invaluable that combination, your experience and education with your heart, is really what sets you apart from anything else that's out there. So I really do. I wish you the very best of luck.
Thank
And,
you.
you know, I will always support your endeavor. So thank you. I am going to end our recording.
Thanks, Kathy.